to the Professor, the Princess. We're your hosts, the lovely Randi.
Hello.
And I'm Aunrée, right? And we talk about what it really means to be human in a world that never stops changing. It is ever, ever, ever changing, and faster than ever now. From culture to technology to identity and emotions, we dig deep into how we love, how we struggle, how we grow, and how we stay grounded in all the noise in the world. So we're happy to have you here to help us decode cultural change.
Love that.
Because that's what we do,
That's
right?
what we do.
I'm going to give you credit for it every time because it's so delicious. So in today's episode, we're diving into the evolution of men's emotional literacy.
That sounds frightening.
It is a little crazy. It's insane. Because those things, but the world I do is changing in a lot of ways. So I'm going to start with this quote that we pulled in our research. So one of my favorite authors and just minds, Bell Hooks, in her book, The Will to Change, Men, Masculinity, and Love, she talks about the development of men's emotional literacy is fundamental to dismantling the patriarchal culture, right? She advocates for men to embrace vulnerability as a strength. Please, guys.
Yes.
It also helps them cultivate emotional awareness for deeper connections and engage in self-reflection to challenge limiting beliefs. How empowering is that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it goes on, this quote goes on to say that this journey entails prioritizing love, guys, what you need to do, fostering healthy relationships through communication and empathy. Guys, communicate and show and exercise more empathy and actively participate in supportive communities. Mm-hmm. I think that the guys are doing this more now than ever. If I'm looking at like my granddad versus my uncle versus the guys now, it's an interesting thing. I'm going to talk about this too. A personal story that kind of connects to this is I think about my younger uncle, and he and I, when I was younger, the toxic masculinity was out of control. Like he talked about his penis size and all the women he was sleeping with, and you have to play basketball like this and all these things. So as, you know, I got older, we were having conversations about just masculinity or just him in general. So not so much masculinity, although I put him into that bucket. I said to him, I said, what was that? Like, why did you feel like you had to talk about all these things? And he's like, that's just what we do as guys, right? And I'm like, but what does it get you? Right? Because you don't really have too much to show for it now. And as we got deep into the conversation, he said a lot of it was proving himself, right? To fit in with other guys, because that's kind of what his male friends did. But I found that like even with my grandfather friend, it wasn't the same thing, but it was this level of like lack of emotion. And when we got down to the brass tacks, we were talking about my uncle's insecurities and how he was using that to cover up his insecurities. Yeah. He was talking about himself having a Napoleon complex and how that showed up where he had to feel like he was big and in charge. That's what he had to do. And even his relationships with women, which he had multiple relationships where he poured into them. But he was looking for something from his partners, from these women, that they weren't able to give to him because he wasn't expressing what he actually needed. Simply like run me a bath afterward, babe, or let's have dinner together, right? To gain that respect. I went on a tangent on this because it's a topic and conversation very dear to me, not only being a man, but also growing up and respecting men, but not respecting the toxic masculinity. Mm-hmm. What is it?
Yeah.
What comes to you, Randi, when you,
I think you hit the nail on the head when you speak of it generationally, right? Yeah. So my daughter, who's 26 and has, friends and relationships with people her age, I find the men are a little softer. They're a little more vulnerable. They're a little more emotionally accessible. Yeah. So I think it is getting better. Mm-hmm. But in many ways, and I know this may sound strange, I feel sorry for men. Ooh, they are brought up, at least my generation and before, they're brought up to, don't you cry. Toughen up, be a man, hold it in. And so where do their emotions go? To anger. Because it can't be sad. It can't be wimpy. It can't be crying. So it's anger. And I have found this tremendous population of males in my generation who have this seething anger right under the surface. That's why you see all this road rage and these fights in bars or at football games, because it's always just simmering right under the surface because they have all this emotion that has been stifled their entire lives. And I've seen it with like my own nephew who's 12. I've seen his father, yell at him about when he's playing sports about toughening up and don't cry. And it's like, I wish that I could, in a constructive way, give him, the father, that advice, because you're not helping your son become an emotionally intelligent man who can be comfortable with all of those feelings and being able to express himself. And I think you're right. Like, vulnerability is a very difficult thing for most men. And I would even go so far as to say that my ex-husband, or even though we're still legally married, but he is the picture of that. Tough, give me something to fix. If there's a crisis, I'm Superman. I got you. Romantic, bring flowers, but a wall when it comes to anything difficult, when I mean emotionally difficult, unable to talk about anything, keeping that lid so tight on that Pandora's box because he's so scared that if he opens that up, it's all just going to blow up. So just keep the lid on it, but would have outrageous anger, bursts of anger, not necessarily toward me, but like driving or somebody pissed him off. It would be these overreactions because all of that emotional like feeling has to go somewhere. And so I find it goes to anger.
Yeah.
And I think, going back to my point, I actually feel bad for men because we want them to be loving and kind and emotional and sharing and communicative and all the things you said, but they've already been conditioned to keep it all under wraps and to be a man. So how can they win?
And girl, I'm going to jump on this bandwagon because it gets juicy, because I was having a conversation with some women not too long ago about this whole idea. As a gay man, I like a bad boy. I grew up in Harlem.
Yeah.
I like a bad boy, right? It's something about, and you like a bad boy too, right? It's the whole thing.
Damn.
And I mean, I remember my mom telling this bad boy that I was seeing when I was growing up, she said to him, stay away from my son because you're going to ruin his life because you don't see beyond this type of masculinity. She didn't say all that. She just said stay away.
Right.
But underneath it,
That's
right?
the message,
That's the
right?
message underneath it, right? And I was talking to some girlfriends and I said to them, I said, we don't help men to be more emotionally literate because we subscribe to the whole idea of wanting a bad boy as well,
course.
right? So we actually support. So it's not.
We're part of the problem.
We're part of the problem. That's it right there. And I think that we talk the talk, but we don't really walk the walk. And when I say walk the walk, I mean supporting
100%.
true men's emotional literacy.
Yes.
So where do we draw the line? I mean, what are we going to do to kind of shift that? Can both of those things, Randy, I tell you this all the time. You changed my life with this one phrase that's actually a theory that works, is that two or more things can be true at the same time.
Yes.
Can men carry that whole idea of being tough and be vulnerable and emotionally intelligent at the same time? There's got to be a way that kind of works.
I don't know, but it's funny that you say that because I have since dated people since my marriage ended.
Yes.
And one of the people in particular is very much of that nature. Very soft, very emotionally available, very vulnerable, very... And I don't mean this in a disrespectful way, but much more in touch with a feminine side, right? And doesn't feel the need to prove anything, to be tough, to be manly, just to be who he is. And I have struggled with that.
Why?
Because as much as I say I want that, I still want the bad boy. I still want the, what are you going to do about it? Like that.
Tarzan, throw Jane over my shoulder. I'm Jane.
Oh, yeah. I have a part of me that's Jane, too. Exactly. And I dated Tarzan for a short time, and that didn't work either.
Exactly. It was fun for the moment.
That alpha male attitude, after a while, I was like, okay, bro, that's enough.
Yeah.
So I think we, as people who love men, are very, very conflicted, and it's a very fine line. And I find it very... it's difficult to navigate. I've actually thought to myself, like, oh, he's so wimpy. He's so... And that's not cool.
Right.
Because that's exactly what I said I wanted. And yet when I get it, it's like, ugh.
Yeah.
So I start saying, well, maybe I'm the one who's emotionally unavailable. And now that somebody has shown up, and this is not obviously about me, it's about men, but it's like a mirror to yourself, right? And I think the only way for men to be accepted in this way is for us to stop screwing around, playing that double-edged sword, saying, I want it one way, but I actually want it the other. We have to learn that when you accept the emotionally open man, you are going to lose the tough guy. I don't think there's a way to have both. I don't. Not that I've ever seen. And be okay with it.
Yeah.
Right.
And look, that's totally fair, right? But I think that because there's so many folks in the world, I think the beautiful thing, and this is not really I think thing, this is just true from psychology, right? And we've both studied psych, is the whole idea that, our minds and the brain is like plastic, right? We kind of learn things. You talk about reinventing yourself earlier, right? That whole idea is a different mindset. It's a different shift. If we're having more conversations about what that happy medium is, I think about the guy I'm talking to now. And he's the sweetest, kindest, most caring dude. He's emotionally intelligent. He, like all of us, a work in progress in all of it because he came out at 40 to his family because that's more meaningful. He's also a brute. Like we're in the car and we're driving down the street and the road rage and I have to tell you, I finally said to him, I said, look, babe, you're going to have to like chill out because you're going to have a heart attack and stroke. But another thing is I don't live in a car accident and I want somebody to shoot us because you're beeping the horn or whatever the case may be. But then also there's something about it that's quite delicious to me, right? Is that he's being right. But then we can have a conversation about his emotions and he's in touch with that too. So I feel that it's all about us leaning in to shift and probably merge the two in the most healthiest way possible. Because, according to Freud, we both have what he calls the male and the female, characteristics, behavior within us, what they call anima and animus.
Yes.
So it's this whole idea of how do we make the new thing? Because either end of the spectrum is just not fucking working.
Correct.
Right? If you're too far on whatever it is, but specifically men in this case, we do want men to be emotional, but we also want them to be a little Tarzan too.
Well, I was going to say, I think that we are hardwired.
Yeah, which is true.
From the cave days.
Yeah.
That we want to be protected.
Yeah, because
and
it's what we're
so
taught.
we want to be with a man who can offer that safety and protection.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is genetic and biological. Like, I feel in my bones that I want someone to protect me. But you can't expect that and that kind of brute, physicality without giving up the other. So how do you find, and to your point, either end of the spectrum is no good. So how do you create a man or a society that allows a man to have a little bit of both?
Yeah, and I think that's a conversation that we have, right?
Lenny Kravitz, maybe.
Right. I have many thoughts on Lenny Kravitz because he is giving you that rock and roll situation, but he's also like the softest moment, right? Because to the emotional piece of it.
Right.
But I think the thing is too, is like, talking about decoding, let's use our words that we have in the brand, is this whole idea of, I think that women have a protective characteristic and behavior as well too, naturally, innately, right? And men have it. It just showed the quality of those behaviors shows up differently, right?
Correct.
So why can't we share those characteristics that we're pushing on to one sex? My mom was like very protective, right? She would go out and slam a woman, tall, short, and she was a shorter woman. She would jump into anyone's face who was, trying to harm or hurt us. That she felt that way, right?
Right.
And my stepdad, the same, right? The caliber and the quality of that was very different. So why can't these behaviors be shared? It's just that there are certain levels or they're on the spectrum at different places where it doesn't define the quality of masculinity and femininity.
Right. But I think the maternal instinct is something that is apart from anything like it. Like being a mom. Yeah. I've never felt anything like that feeling of protecting your child. Yeah. So it's a different kind of protection, right? Yeah. I think if we're looking at men as a species, we have to give them the grace and allow them to navigate almost kind of like in a snake pattern. Like it's not a straight line.
Right, right.
It just kind of twists and turns.
Yeah.
So today he's feeling very manly and he's
Tarzan,
right.
caveman.
And tomorrow he's feeling soft and cuddly.
Let's hold him.
Right.
Exactly.
And I think that, yes, men are responsible for their emotional growth and their emotional intelligence and all that. But I think those that love him, women, men, or otherwise,
Yes.
need to also show up with a little bit more tolerance and a little bit more understanding that they have been conditioned to be one way, and that's really hard because they're being forced to deny their feelings. And now at 30, 40, 50 years old, you're now asking them to share their feelings. They're like, what?
Right.
I've been told to shut up for my whole life. Now you want me to spill it all out?
Right.
It's very difficult. And like I said, if I had to say the one thing that was the absolute end of my marriage, it was that.
What was it?
That my husband was unable to have any emotional vulnerability.
Or show.
No, to communicate, to share, to open, to let down that armor. I mean, I thought when we were younger that he was, by saying I love you and bringing me things and being romantic. That's not the same thing.
It's not, because it's not about him.
Right. And so that in itself was the doom of our relationship, his inability to show up in that way. And so I think a lot of people live in this very dark space in a marriage where they just kind of do their own stuff and it doesn't feel like they're connected. And it's because in many cases the man just can't open up.
Yeah. So I got two challenges for you based upon what you said, just because, and then we'll get to like the evolution of kind of how things are shifting now. So one thing you said is that a mother's instinct of protection is very specific and different.
Yes.
True. But you had sisters before, and you're the oldest of your your two sisters. Is that there was still a protective aspect of who you are as a woman before you had a child, right? And then we talked about the whole idea is that you didn't really see yourself as a mother until you became it, and then you became a fabulous mom. But it wasn't like something you were a parent. You're a fabulous mother, so please take the credit. So going back, I challenge the whole idea is that the protective mechanism or behavior is not just with women who are parents who have a baby. That's very specific, and I think it's its own episode. But it also just comes with you being a person who happens to be a woman who have, protective instincts, right? So just to make sure that we're not saying that a woman has to be a mother to, and not that you were saying that, but just for someone who's listening, like, no, girl, you have it, and you don't have that baby.
Yeah.
And then the other thing with your ex-husband, and I think this is a challenge for other women as well, is do you feel like you gave him permission in a safe space to be vulnerable?
I don't know. It's a damn good question. Maybe I didn't.
And not saying to make you a bad person, but as we're a child.
No, you're right. I don't know, because we were young and we grew up together in a way, not so young, but young enough. And we both changed so much over the almost 30 years we were together. So maybe he didn't feel safe. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I also think, and, I don't want to, we do need to wrap up, but I do think that most of that comes from issues that he never dealt with.
Yeah.
That he came to the marriage with those issues and I just didn't see it at that time.
And with that fact,
because I wasn't evolved enough to see what I was seeing. The red flags did not show up to me. The love bombing was flattering.
Yes.
It wasn't, oh, this is a problem.
Yeah.
So.
But we're also not taught to take advantage of this. I mean, I think the younger generation probably is. They're having these conversations. But also we're also modeling what we were taught, right? And how do we move?
Exactly.
Because as a gay man, that for a long time, that's what I was looking for. So although I was still saying I'm a man, I was still looking for my partner and other men to show up in that brute Tarzan type of way. That when you said the Tarzan situation back in the day when we were talking about that relationship you had, it tickles me because it's the perfect description as far as I'm concerned. And I could see me with my hair falling over his shoulder. I digress. It's so fucking out of control. But it's just my truth. Okay, Randi, thank you for also being vulnerable in that experience to talk about like how you have moved as a woman, being with a man and wanting a man to show up a certain way, and then also saying that you want to be vulnerable, but then being caught like, well, wait, Am I really attracted to this thing? Is it really giving me what I need?
Right.
And then are we allowing men to be emotionally free?
However they feel like.
Yes.
Right. Without
right?
putting them in a box.
And also giving them options of what it looks like outside
Right.
of
It doesn't have to be the same thing every day.
Yeah. And there are a lot of fabulous podcasts.
Yes.
So this is the beauty of social media. Like, people get crazy. I never thought I would be a TikTok kid. Well, TikTok old man, because nobody's TikTok kid. But I love me some TikTok because there's a lot of things to kind of see on there. And there are beautiful podcasts with men bringing the barbershop conversation to the people. So people, because I sat in barbershops throughout my life when I did have hair at one point, where men are having conversations about how they feel. They like, one of my favorites is when a guy will say things like, I love her so much, but if I tell her, then she's not going to see me as, how I want her to see me.
Right.
And we're like, well, man, take that. Well, I never said this because I'm not that guy. But like, man, just tell her. Like, just do it. Let's like see what happens. I don't want her to look at me like a weak, right? But now we get to see more conversations about men saying why it's important for them to be emotionally available, for them to be more vulnerable, right? But they also need that safe space. And what I want people to know who are watching those podcasts and listening and watching those shows, listen to the conversation, is that we have to do our part as gay men, women, etc., right? To lean in, to create those safe spaces for men to actually action those things, right?
And go to therapy.
Tons of therapy. I buy into therapy.
No, I mean, men are starting to do more of that.
Oh, look at that.
So that helps.
Yeah, in so many ways. Right?
Just because it opens up those conversations that they didn't want to have in the first place.
Yeah.
So I think that's a big piece of it, is opening yourself up to the possibility of what you could learn and how you could grow by having those conversations. And I think a lot of young men are doing that.
Look at that. Tarzan, you can be emotional. Mix up your own brew of man. I want the new man.
Right.
I want the Tarzan vulnerable.
You want to be flung over the shoulder and then have a deep conversation about their feelings.
Exactly. Like,
nothing wrong with that.
And this is going to be crazy. I'm going to say it because we're talking about trees, but Tarzan, let's swing from one vine to the other and then go sit and have a conversation and cry together.
Yeah.
But you still protect me.
That.
Oh my God. Right? Oh my God. Pretty. So good. So good.
Okay.
I can't.
We must stop.
We must.
All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us. And remember, it's less about having the answers and more about asking the questions, which is what we're doing.
Everything to me.
Until next time, keep watching the world with open eyes.
Hello.
Au revoir.
Au revoir.